Curly, the Crow Scout who survived Little Big Horn 1876. They found scalps of white men in the Sioux camp. Custer laughed hours later. His entire battalion was wiped out. Curly's heart pounded as he gripped the stolen Sioux rifle. One wrong move, and he joined the corpses. How did a teenage Crow Scout cheat death, while America's greatest general fell? Curly, born a Shishish in the summer of 1859, grew up in the shadow of the Bighorn Mountains, far removed from the chaos of the Plains Wars. Unlike many Crow boys his age, he rarely chased trouble when I was a boy. I did not do much, I was not crazy, but I did not run into mischief. He later recalled his parents, respected members of the Absolute Band, instilled discipline, early lessons that shaped his quiet, observant nature. His first encounter with white settlers came at age 12, during a trading trip with calloused hands. He laid buffalo calf skins on a Fort Smith trader's counter. 50 cents a pound, the man barked, tossing him iron tools and dyed cloth. I thought that was a great thing to do. Curly admitted, marveling at the exchange. These trips taught him the value of silence. He watched, listened, and learned to navigate to worlds. By 16, Curly had joined dozens of buffalo hunts, his arrows finding their mark with lethal precision. But his eyes lingered on the warriors, returning from raids, their stories of glory igniting a restless ambition. When I was about 18, he said, I sought opportunities to go on the warpath. The Crow Nation's clashes with Lakota and Cheyenne bands were escalating, and Curly ached to prove himself, not with reckless bravery, but with the cunning his elders praised. Everything changed in March 1876. U.S. Army officers rode into the Crow camp, near the Little Bighorn River, their blue coats stark against the prairie. Tribal chiefs gathered the young men. The Viho white men seek scouts, announced Chief Blackfoot, his voice cutting through the murmurs. They hunt the Sioux who will stand with them. Curly stepped forward without hesitation. I quickly volunteered, he said, his hand gripping the elk bone knife at his side. Among the chosen were Harry, Moccasin, and White Swan, seasoned hunters, their faces etched with scars from past skirmishes. But as the group prepared to depart, Curly's older brother pulled him aside. We have a secret mission, he whispered, eyeing the army officers not here. Follow me to the Tongue River. For days, they tracked empty stretches of Montana territory, finding no sign of the Lakota bands the army swore were nearby. Frustration simmered. We went as far as Tongue River, but did not find what we were searching for, Curly admitted, returning empty-handed. He seethed, not at failure, but at the gnawing sense that greater storms loomed. By April 1876, Curly's world narrowed to the rhythm of hoofbeats and coded hand signals. After the failed mission to Tongue River, he and the Crow Scouts regrouped at Clark's Ford, a barren stretch of the Yellowstone, where the wind carried whispers of Lakota war songs. Here the U.S. Army's disorganization became glaring. Terry's scouts, stripped of horses by Sioux raiders, shuffled through camp like ghosts. We had 8 horses between us, Curly noted, a pittance against the sprawling plains. The arrival of Bonnie Bravo and Littleface, 2 mixed blood scouts, fluent in sign language and Lakota dialects, revealed the Army's desperation. Bravo, a grizzled, matey man with a carbine slung across his back, sized up the Crow recruits. You track Sioux, he grunted, eyeing Curly's unstrung bow. Forget trails, look for dung fires. Their smoke sticks low when they cook bison. The advice proved critical. Days later, Bravo's sharp whistle halted the party. Near Tongue River, through his spyglass, he spotted the faint smudge of a Sioux encampment. 500 lodges by Curly's estimate, stretching across the horizon. Terry's response was swift and reckless. Ignoring the Crow's warnings about spring floods, he ordered the 7th Cavalry to ford the Yellowstone River on May 8. The result was carnage. Horses panicked in the turning current. Soldiers, weighed down by wool uniforms and Springfield rifles, vanished beneath gray waves. The water swallowed them like stones. Curly recalled at least 12 men and 30 horses drowned, a loss historians later attributed to Terry's refusal to consult Indigenous scouts on seasonal river patterns. Yet Terry's fixation on the Sioux camp intensified. When Bravo's team reported its relocation to Little Rosebud Creek, the general's jaw tightened. No praise, no questions, Curly observed instead. Terry fragmented his forces further, dispatching Bravo to retrieve horses, and ordering Curly to rendezvous with supply wagons a decision that exposed the Army's logistical fragility. Curley's solo ride to Crow Agency underscored the cultural chasm between the Army and its scouts. Soldiers huddled behind makeshift barricades, their faces pale, as they scanned the bluffs for Sioux marksmen. They feared shadows, Curley muttered, watching a private jump at the crack of a twig. By contrast, he navigated the open prairie with methodical precision, dismounting to check soil for fresh tracks, sniffing the air for ash when he located the wagons, their mule teams straining under ammunition crates. He offered no celebration, only a terse nod to the drivers. That night camped beside the wagons. Curley sharpened his knife while the soldiers traded rumors of Custer's impending arrival. His thoughts lingered on Terry's disjointed strategy, splitting scouts, ignoring terrain, treating the Crow as expendable guides rather than allies. Modern historians dissect this period as a fatal pivot, the Army's Eurocentric tactics clashing catastrophically with the plains. Fluid warfare for Curley. It was simpler than he saw land to conquer. We saw it breathing as Curley returned to Terry's camp. The distant rumble of steamboats echoed up the Yellowstone. Aboard the Far West, a headstrong officer with golden curls studied maps, oblivious to the Crow Scouts' warnings. The stage was set for collision. By June 5, 1876, Terry's camp crawled along the Yellowstone like a wounded beast. Supply wagons sank into mud and officers barked orders, drowned by the Far West steamboat's shrill whistle. Curley watched as White Man runs him, horseless and grim, boarded the vessel with dispatches. A stark reminder of the Army's reliance on Crow mobility. When ordered to backtrack 10 miles upriver, the scouts exchanged wary glances. We rode the same trails twice, Curley muttered. The Sioux were laughing in the wind. The arrival of Mitchboy, the mixed-blood interpreter, cracked Terry's inertia. Boyer's steely command, "Break camp, Custer's coming," sent soldiers scrambling. Curley noted the hierarchy. Terry huddled in an ambulance wagon with infantry commanders, while Boyer, fluent in Sioux and French, dictated terms. Yellow Shield wants 6 scouts. Boyer announced, his gaze lingering on Curley. "You White Swan, Harry Moccasin, the rest ride home." The selection was no compliment. It was a 6 Crow eyes to offset Custer's blind ambition. On June 21, the Far West deposited them at the Little Rosebud's mouth. Here ritual collided with the scouts smeared war paint, ochre for vigilance, charcoal for stealth, while soldiers gaped, dressed like savages. "Fight like devils," a lieutenant sneered. Curley ignored him. The paint wasn't decoration. It was camouflage blending into the sagebrush sea. Custer's tent loomed like a white monument. Inside, the general's presence crackled, a tailored buckskin jacket, hair cropped military short, eyes scanning the crowd with calculated warmth. Curley stepped forward first, pressing a silver dollar into Custer's palm. "A gift," he said. Through beer, the gesture, a Crow custom for new alliances, drew might a polished smile. "Fine scouts deserve finer rewards," Custer declared, handing each man $25,600 total. As some historians later confirmed from Army payrolls. But Custer's charm veiled condescension. "You find the Indians, I'll do the fighting," he stated, dismissing their role as mere trackers. Curley's jaw tightened. Unlike Terry, Custer radiated certainty, a trait the Crow distrusted. "A man who doesn't fear the storm gets struck by lightning," White Swan whispered. That night Mandan drumbeats throbbed as Custer hosted a stilted feast. "Eat well, friends," he urged, serving hardtack and coffee rations. The Crows spat out discreetly. The Mandan dancers' coins jingled, a hollow echo of the Crows' $600. Curley noted the absence of Lakota scouts, a fatal oversight. Custer, convinced of Sioux inferiority, never considered they might outthink him. At dawn, the 7th Cavalry marched up Little Rosebud, Curley riding flank. Custer quizzed him on Terry's last Sioux sightings. "Tomorrow we reach their camp," Curley warned. "Today only Crows circle," the general chuckled. Spurring his horse ahead behind him, 6 and 72 men followed companies A to M, their guidance flapping like scarlet targets. As the column snaked toward the greasy grass, Curley's pony snorted at a fresh hoofprint. He dismounted, fingers brushing still warm dung. Close ahead, Custer hummed Gary. The scouts exchanged glances. No words were needed. The land itself had begun to scream. June 24, 1876. Dawn broke over a landscape humming with tension. Curley and Go Ahead crouched at the Little Rosebuds, fork fingers tracing hoofprints pressed deep into cracked earth. The Sioux trail split like a serpent's tongue. One branch veered west toward the Bighorn Mountains, the other north into rolling grasslands. Custer straddling his sorrel. Mayor Vic gestured impatiently. "You take the left," he ordered. "Curly, go ahead the right. Report back by sundown." The scouts moved like shadows. Curly's path snaked through ravines, strewn with fresh pony droppings and discarded parfleck bags. By midday, the trails merged near Ash Creek, converging into a single scar wide enough for 800 ponies. A chilling detail, later corroborated by Cheyenne oral histories ahead. Smoke plumes smudged the horizon. "Go ahead," signal. Cry a red-tailed hawk screech. Pierced the air. Together they crested a ridge. Below sprawled a city of lodges. 700 tippers, by Curly's count, clustered along the greasy grass river Sioux, Cheyenne, Arapaho. But it was the trophies, nailed to willow poles, that froze the scouts' breath. Scalps some blonde as cut, dangling beside beards packed from salt. The bluecoats came before us. "Go ahead," muttered, noting shattered Spencer cartridges and lost. They returned at midnight to find Custer's tent aglow. The general sat bareheaded, scribbling notes, as his cook ladled rancid pork onto tin plates. Curly dropped the grisly evidence, a scalp still crusted with blood, onto the map table. "The trails merge. All Sioux are there," he stated. Custer leaned forward, eyes glittering. "How many more than the stars?" "You count." "Go ahead," replied Custer, dismissed the warning. Instead, he fixated on a scalp's golden strands. "The Great Father sent me to conquer these savages," he declared, voice steady but fingers trembling. "If they kill me, they'll still suffer. If they spare me, they'll suffer more." Historians still dissect this moment. Was it resolve or fatalism? Curly saw neither, only a man bargaining with ghosts. The general's next words hung like a death sentence. "I may not survive this summer," he admitted, locking eyes with the scouts. "But Lev and I'll make you Crow chiefs." The offer reeked of desperation, for Curly leadership wasn't bestowed. It was earned through courage in the tribe's eyes. He nodded silently, pocketing the empty promise. As Custer dismissed the scouts, Curly lingered outside the tent. The night air carried drumbeats from the greasy grass, Sioux victory songs throbbing like a pulse. "Go ahead," spat into the fire. "He hears only his own ghost," he muttered. Curly said nothing. In his palm he clutched the silver dollar, given to Custer days earlier. Its edges bit into his skin. A silent oath. June 25, 1876. For 3 a.m. Curly's breath fogged in the pre-dawn chill. As he scanned the 5 Crow scouts moved like ghosts, their ponies' hooves muffled by dew-soaked grass. Above them, Mandan scouts clambered up a sandstone bluff, silhouetted against the rising sun. "Go ahead," hissed accursed fools. "They'll paint us for the Sioux." He jerked his chin at Curly. "Tell Custer, keep those dogs in the valley." Curly galloped back, the coyote howl he'd heard hours earlier still prickling his neck at camp. He found Custer squinting at a map, Major Reno scowling beside him. "The Mandan must stay low," Curly urged. "The Sioux are close." Custer waved a dismissive hand. "They're eager, let them run." The reply was pure Custer, bold, reckless, deaf to Crow pragmatism. By midday, the scouts' worst fears materialized. White Swan and Harry Moccasin galloped in their ponies, lathered the Sioux, moved camp up Little Rosebud toward the greasy grass. White Swan panted, Custer's eyes lit. "Then we'll chase them." Curly bit back. Frustration. The general ignored the critical detail. The Sioux had split forces, leaving false trails, a tactic Sitting Bull perfected to lure enemies into The command reached Talla Creek by dusk, but Custer halted abruptly, refusing to advance. Scouts argued bitterly. "He hesitates like a deer in firelight." "Go ahead," muttered Curly. Rode alone to Custer's tent. "The trail leads west. What do you command?" Custer, polishing his Remington revolver, didn't look up. "Then take 2 sentries and watch the hills." At first light, Curly jolted awake to shouts. Through the smoke of morning cookfires, he spotted the Sioux encampment. 1,800 lodges by later estimates, sprawling across the Little Bighorn Valley. A Mandan scout scribbled a message. "Hurry, large camp." Custer read it and smirked. "Charge now, that ends their journey." The 7th Cavalry descended Reno Creek at a trot. Curly guiding them past an abandoned Sioux lodge. Inside lay 2 warriors, dead for days, their faces blackened in mourning, a detail only the Crow understood. Bad medicine, White Swan whispered. Custer ignored it, handing Curly a slip of paper for Reno. Tell him to attack. Reno's reply, scrawled in haste, changed nothing. By 3:15 p.m., Custer's battalion forded the river, guidance flying. Curly lingered on a knoll as the general turned, his final order slicing through gunfire. Save yourself. Curly's pony skidded down the coulee as gunfire erupted behind him. In his saddlebag, the uneaten hardtack Custer had given him rattled like bones ahead bay. The Little Bighorn's waters churned red. He didn't look back. The land had chosen its dead. Bullets hissed past Curly's ears as he crouched behind a granite outcrop. His cartridge belt hung light, 3 rounds left across the ravine. A Sioux warrior lay sprawled in death, his Winchester still slung across his chest. Curly lunged, grabbing the rifle and ammunition pouch. The man's paint-streaked face, frozen in a snarl, mirrored the chaos around them. For hours Curly hugged the earth near the corpse, the stench of blood and gunpowder thickening as Lakota war cries swallowed Custer's fading volleys. At dusk, he crawled uphill. Each inch gained a battle. From the eastern ridge, the valley unfolded like a nightmare. Bodies littered the grass, and in the distance, a lone figure in blue stood encircled Custer. By dawn, Curly's stolen horse staggered into Terry's camp. The general's aide stared as he dismounted, his hands shaping desperate pan. Kneeling, he piled grass into a mound. 262 men then scattered it wide. Terry paled, no interpreter needed. Orders came anyway for 36 hours. Curly crisscrossed the battlefield, delivering dispatches between Terry, Reno, and the steamboat Far West. Near Last Stand Hill, he passed burial crews stacking corpses like firewood. One soldier clutched a photograph of a woman, her face smudged with dirt. Curly looked away on June 27 as the Far West prepared to carry wounded downriver. Curly stood at the gangplank behind him. Smoke curled from the valley, where Custer's bones lay unclaimed. No speeches honored the Crow Scouts, no medals, just a final dispatch. Its ink smeared by rain, Curly rode home to the Bighorns, his story silenced for decades by an army eager to bury its blunders. Yet on wind-scoured ridges, the land remembers a Crow Scout's choices, a general's hubris, and the unmarked graves, whispering truths no dispatch could carry.